All right, so thank you very much once again for taking the time out to join me and to share your thoughts on mediation in Africa. Could you start by telling me a bit about yourself, where you were born, and how you got into the mediation space, as well as the kind of work that you do in terms of mediation?
Okay, I saw your questionnaire and the invite. And I said I'm not even a seasoned mediator as yet. I'm a budding mediator. But because I work for an organization that does peace building, so and we've always shied away from doing mediation. We do more of dialogue facilitation. But I said, oh, well, I'll just talk to them all the same. But you want to know, I was born in Zimbabwe, actually, and I studied psychology. From there, I worked in development. I did development management issues, working on leadership issues, community development. Then one of the projects that I worked on that probably led me to to the work I'm doing is I worked on what we called a leadership development program in Zimbabwe back in, when was that? In the early 2000. So we worked with various levels of leadership, including youth leaders, that included rural youth, and that also included university youth. And we worked with what we called local leaders. Local leaders were like councillors and also traditional leaders, back then, and women's leaders. So from there, I then went to do my master's in at WITS, and it was focusing on public and development management. And then I went to work for IDASA, the Institute for Democracy in Africa. And I was given the portfolio to manage a leadership program, as it were, but it was focusing on political parties. It was sponsored by the Netherlands Institute of Multi-Party Democracy. So I suppose it was a gradual build-up to what I'm doing. So I worked with political party issues, capacity building of political parties for a bit of time. And then then what happened? Then I started consulting quite a lot in democratic governance issues, particularly issues of elections, and again, still on capacity building of political parties. And then I ended up supporting the Dennis Haley Peace Institute. That's when I really entered the issue of peace building in a way. So the Dennis Haley Peace Institute is based there again in Pretoria. It's under the what is this? Southern Africa Bishops Catholic Conference. The programs there that we worked on were really peace building and focused on Zimbabwe, Lesotho, and Eswatini. And then from there, I moved then to the organization I am with right now, the In Transformation Initiative, which focuses on sharing the South African experience of peace building to other contexts who are at various levels of transition. So there we work with countries like the Central African Republic, Zimbabwe. We've worked with the DRC. We are now started working with Eswatini. What is the other country? South Sudan, we've had our hand a little bit in that. Myanmar also. And Lesotho. Yeah. But besides, I'm only talking about the countries where I've had a hand in. But besides that, there have been other interventions that our organization has tried to do, has worked with. So we are usually invited by stakeholders in those countries to say, come and help us, or or support us on our reconciliation drive, or on transitional justice, or the issues that South Africa has important lessons on to share. So basically, that's what we do. That. So when I say that, it's not, we don't really do mediation. We've not been in that mediation space, but more of a facilitation of processes, transitional processes. Yeah.
Right, thank you for that, and yeah, quite rich experience that you have in peace building. And in the work that you do, would you say there has been space for you, to bring your own values and your own ideals into the peace building processes that you've been working on, or do you find that you have to stick to particular norms and particular training that you've had?
I think there's space for both, because the training that I have, obviously, it's influenced by a Western notion of, what works in such context. Whereas you come here and you feel that this won't fly, So it's more of a balance between the two. The important thing being able to read the room, as it were, or the situation, and try and adapt as much as possible to the context. While at the same time, of course, there are important things that you've learned that you think, oh, this can work, this could be tried. So I think, as I said, it's really a fine balance of both.
And in the work that you do in peace processes and conflict transformation, what would you describe as a successful process?
Well, I think I think a process usually influences an outcome, So I think it's always important to focus on both. Of course, you'll have an outcome in mind. Sorry, I had a cough, so I have to clear my throat ever so often. So the process is equally important, if not even actually quite more important, because I think in the process there are so many building blocks, so many things that you are able to unlock through a process, so many things that you are able to also discover as it unravels. Because conflicts are ever evolving, they are so dynamic. So focusing on the process is important. It helps you to appreciate those various dynamics and mutations and the fluxes that happen. So yeah, I think it's just as important as the outcome, but I would put a lot of emphasis on the process.
Thank you for that. And in terms of the process, what is your preferred approach to dealing with conflicts? I know you said you're not a mediator per se, but how would you prefer to approach a conflict situation?
Yeah, because my inclination is more towards dialogue. I would place emphasis on the importance of dialogues, of understanding a conflict situation, hence the importance of a conflict analysis, a proper conflict analysis, which involves the various stakeholders. The importance of doing back channel discussions, the importance of not only focusing on track one processes, but appreciating the various levels of tracks that can be the track two, track 1.5, track 2, track 3. You can go as far as you want, with the tracks, because literature tells you that there are so many. So, but the important thing is making sure that there's a vision on how these all come together, But I would shy away from this thing of just focusing on track one, which ends up being quite an elitist approach to conflict transformation, or conflict resolution, or conflict management.
Thank you very much for that. And in terms of a lead mediator, somebody who's able to lead a mediation process, what kind of criteria do you think should be applied in selecting those individuals?
I I think somebody who appreciates the context, somebody who's context savvy, and somebody who has a cultural appreciation of whatever context, somebody who definitely has people skills, somebody who has wisdom, as it were, which is a bit of the ability to read a room, the ability to read stakeholders, the ability to unlock various resources. Not necessarily, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about, being able to know that we need other third parties, and they have that gravitas to be able to reach out to, if it needs an Obama, if it needs a Chisano, if it needs a whoever, at this particular point, to reach out to somebody who's able to unlock the locks. So honestly, that's a super person, I know, but I think the ability to do that, the issue of impartiality, is important. It's actually quite important for a mediator. Yeah, and somebody who, did I say, who has gravitas, who's able to be trusted, who has some high level of political capital. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. And just to follow up on that, do you think training of mediators is very important, or do you think the characteristics that you've mentioned, or the character of the lead mediator going into this mediation, is more important?
No, I think it has to be a combination of that. The training is equally important. As I said, you discover a lot through the training of some things that you took for granted, that you could have managed better. So I think the training enhances those personal characteristics, that a mediator has. Yeah, makes them more aware of other issues, or yes, since it's a very complex matter to mediate. So when we've often discussed about these mediators that are chosen just because they were former heads of state, that are they really mediators? Are they really good mediators? Yes, they have the political, they only have one aspect going for them. But what about, the various skills that are needed for a mediator to be relatively successful? So that's why I said I think it's a combination. Unless you're getting that person, and then as mediators, we always say you work in a team, so you bring in various skills, but which is important, which is wise, because you recognize that perhaps not one person can possess all these skills, attributes, that is needed. So yes, I think a combination of the training and personal characteristics is important.
Right. Thank you once again for that. And given the environment that most mediation processes take place in terms of patriarchy, do you think that there is space for women mediators to be effective in these mediation processes that are highly patriarchal and dominated by males?
I think they can be. I think they can definitely be effective, but I think this needs to balance. As I said, you see, there are many spaces for mediation, and this focus on track one, I think that's the one that's dominated by patriarchal values, and that put men as the mediators who are likely to be more effective. But I see that with time, there's, mediation teams have been trying to balance out the gender issue and all. But there, as I say, there, track 2, track 1.5, track 2, track 3, where women have really shown that they can actually be quite effective as mediators. So I think that is actually very possible. We just don't highlight them enough.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And as a mediator yourself, what are some of the challenges that you encountered in the process of mediating?
Well, I suppose the issue of initial attitude, because you're a woman, because you're a certain age, because you know, yeah, but I think it's usually that you're a woman, and depending who is but it's initial. It's just an initial reaction that can be countered once they get to know you, once they get to trust you, So it's basically about attitudes, initially based on gender, based on age. Yeah. At least from the context that I've been in.
Okay. And how have you managed to overcome these challenges?
Being able to rely on experience and knowledge, So once they trust that you do know something, that you have some wisdom to share with them, that you are able to speak and connect with their issue. So it's really working at the level of building confidence in yourself, building confidence by them in you, through the knowledge, through relation building, with them. Yeah, and I think what also has helped, because I find in spaces like the Central Africa, I'm able to relate to at ministerial level, at head of parliament level, whatever. But what has helped is I've worked with senior and respected mediators who are men who opened that door but allowed for that mentorship to happen, and that's those connections. So it's like a referral system. Somebody then they say you'll be working with patients, So already for them that says, oh, if this person is being referred by Ruth Mayer, we can trust that we can work with her. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
I do. Yeah. So thank you very much for those interesting insights. We're coming to the end of our interview. Would you like to add anything else, pertaining to your experience as a mediator and some of the insights you can give us on women in mediation?
As I said, I'm really starting to enter the mediation space proper now. I've been doing a program, in advanced masters in mediation studies now. So I just completed it. And because I've been doing dialogue facilitation, so now I'm expanding to entering into the space of actual mediations. So I don't know if I can really pass a judgment on any insights that I can give outside of very practical things. Yeah, I cannot think of any. I cannot think of any insights at the moment.
All right.
But the scope and the space for women mediators, I think it's actually quite there. And this I would really relate to. I'm going to talk from an African context. That I think there has to be an appreciation that even despite of patriarchy, the role of women is not necessarily one that is frowned upon. And I think we can rely on some cultural practices or cultural responsibilities as women, or recognition that we have as women to leverage on that. So, for example, if I give you are also from Zimbabwe because I hear your name, you have aunts, vanatete, apana musha function usina vanatete. And what type of things do they get involved in? If you talk about social conflicts, if the aunt is not there, they will look for another. They want Tagambuya, come and mediate on this issue. So I'm saying there's precedence on how women can have and can, function within that. Of course, when it becomes formalized and into a professional, I don't know where we lose it. But it will be good to think about, how we can leverage on that recognition that already exists. So that's why I said, if you look at the other tracks, which is not the track one, you will see that in some contexts, women are actually quite successful. Women are successful in bringing community groups together. They are successful in actually talking to insurgents. In some contexts, I've read about that. I think it was Mali. Also in the Central African Republic, I've read about that in some communities where women have been key. But at those levels, in other spaces, which is not track one. So I think we should recognize those more, maybe document them more, those cases where this happens.
All right. So thank you so much for those rich insights and very useful insights for this research.